I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
It is a picture-perfect day in the shadow of the mountains in Desert Center, California. High 60s and sun offer the perfect environment to go racing in the desert. Today, Spec Corvette, presented by Nankang Tires, takes on Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, a 2.68-mile road course built here in 2010. It's the final event of the season where we'll crown a champion and complete 2022's story for the series. Kyle Heyer in the booth alongside James Watson for two final 15-minute races for the season finale. James, welcome aboard. Yesterday had some really great racing. Today we get to do it all over again for the last time this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get a repeat of what we saw yesterday. We saw some awesome battles up and down the field. Well, I'm sure it's going to be the same thing today, especially with it being at such an amazing track. You know, Chuckwalla is a really underrated track. Like, not a lot of people know about it, but it's one of those tracks that people need to know about it. iRacing when...
A relatively new construction, built in 2010. That's pretty new as far as road courses go. Built in the middle of the desert, so the sun beats down, and the dust and the debris can get on the racetrack and make things extraordinarily slick. We kicked off the weekend with 13 cars. Down a couple this morning from a couple of incidents, but all drivers all right. We're just getting set for our first race of two in these twin 15-minute back-to-back adventures. Both, James, are standing starts. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. But these Spec Corvette cars, let's talk about them here a little bit, James. 380 horsepower from their stock engines. Surprise dyno testing to keep things equal, but they're all C5 coupes or hatches from the Chevrolet Corvette family, and all spec components and parts making these things race side by side as equally as possible.
Yeah, you love seeing stuff like this. You know, racing to me always needs to be more in the driver's hands. Otherwise, it's just a glorified engineering competition. So seeing these guys run around in basically the same car, it's cool because you get to see who's the better driver. Or you get to see just pure racing, and that's all we really want to see as fans. It's just good, hard, honest competition.
Well, if it's all about the driver, let's have a look at the standings here. Coming into yesterday, these are standings that were not yet updated as of yesterday afternoon, but coming into the Chuckwalla Valley Raceway weekend, Thordarson was leading pretty safely over Greg Nestor, Craig Dale, and J.C. Monet. Mark LaCourte was fifth. He was very successful yesterday, but a little too far back to make an impact on the top runner, Thordarson, in that number 22, who continues to be the cream of the crop when it comes to Spec Corvette racing out here, James.
Yeah, Oli, man, he's unreal. So, like, he's fast, but he's also ridiculously consistent. And those are the hardest guys to race against because, you know, sometimes you need to have your competition to have a bad day. That just doesn't happen with Oli. He's just ridiculously consistent. You can always count on him to, if he's not up at the front, he's going to be near the front.
Well, that consistency paid off. 8 podiums this season, 1 win on the year for his Alvaca Networks number 22. So he's going to be rolling off in this grid following John Wynn and a couple other drivers. We've got cameras on board John Wynn as well as we've got Thordarson's on board. And we were going to have Patrick Howe, but it sounds like it's just down to John and Oli. So there's the thumbs up. Engines are fired. And shortly, James, we're going to get rolling. Standing starts for both of these races, which means getting the launch right is going to be a big factor in how you finish.
I can't wait. Standing starts in racing is just so ridiculous. It just breeds in the chaos. So I can't wait to see these guys just rip it off the line and just hearing them rip through the gears.
Getting up through their gearboxes and towards the 17 turns here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. Lots of elevation change, a lot of interesting corner designs, but it all starts with a run down to turns 1 and 2, kind of a left-right juke, James. Then you head into turn 3, and then turns 4 and 5. That's 2 left-handers paired to kind of an opposite sequence at turn 6 and 7. Then you run up to turn 8, another fast chicane entry over the crest at 9, kind of lean on turn 10. You head to 11 and 12, another chicane complex, and then you get to turn 13. One of my favorite corners. You got a ton of banking here to lean on, James, which means you can carry a lot of speed.
Yeah, it's another entry into the long list of awesome carousel corners. You know, you love having bank corners to rip around. Honestly, I'd say, hey, it gives me a lot of vibes of the carousel up the interstate a little bit at Sonoma.
Yeah, it definitely has that kind of character, just in the opposite direction. Turn 14 and 15 are both left-handers. You end the lap on turn 16 and a slight juke back to the left at 17, jump the curb, and come back around to the start-finish line. That's one lap. We're going to do several of them here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. So that's a look at the racetrack. Cars are rolling, getting their tires and brakes warmed up. That's going to be important for that run down to the first corner. James, looking at the standings, Oli Thordarson is pretty much got himself locked as the season champion, but that doesn't mean he can rest on his laurels here. He's going to have to fight pretty hard to stay up front, and they maybe have a chance at picking up another victory before the season's over.
I mean, just because you got the big trophy doesn't mean you can't go for the other trophies too. I mean, you won the war. Why not win a few more battles before it's out? You know, us race car drivers, we're always going to be going for everything we can. And when you have the big crown locked up, it almost makes it easier to go for wins, because at that point you got nothing to lose. You've got the big crown. Take everything you can.
Nothing to lose. Your starting lineup, row number 1 is Mark LaCourte and Oli Thordarson, so the points leader will roll off in second. Greg Nestor and Daniel Sepulveda will roll off alongside each other in row number 2, and third and fourth, John Wynn and Jimerson will roll off in row number 3, and Patrick Howe will start on the tail of the field in row number 5. That's your starting lineup here, still on the pace lap, and on the screen now you can see that bank turn 13. So much mechanical grip in these cars. These cars all have spec aero, but they don't have a lot of aero, James. You're leaning on the tire grip from those Nankang tires and the banking in turn 13. So you're going to light those rear tires up a lot, and car control is going to be a huge factor in not only going quickly, but also maintaining traction at some of these slippery corners here at Chuckwalla.
Yeah, American sports cars aren't really known for handling. We're known for power, and that's about it. So that's where you're really going to see the driving skill he'll come through, is that you really gotta negotiate. You're like, come on, let's get through the corner. Come on, you can do it. Let's go. And yeah, pretty much the guys who can learn to negotiate their car the best is gonna dominate here.
Well, the field getting gridded up here to go racing for their 15-minute race number 1. Big 6-piston brake kits on these cars from Willwood Brakes, NS2R 295 3018 tires sticking us to the road. TPS Motorsports, Redline Oil, Track Spec Motorsports, Parks, Spec Racing, and Sparco USA all contributing parts as we are racing in race 1 of 2 in the season finale at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. On board with John Wynn as we storm down towards turn number 1. Left-hand kink into the right-hander. LaCourte leads Thordarson as we head into the back straightaway, or one of them here, James, on the initial start.
Yeah, good clean start. Not a whole lot of sins. You know, good things you want to see. He got everyone still really close here, heading up to the real fun bits of this place.
Still on board with John Wynn chasing down the third place car. You see LaCourte in that yellow car. He was dominant yesterday, just drove away from Thordarson, but John Wynn is all over the back. I think that's Nestor in the red car here on the brakes, tucking in behind. You can hear the tires squealing here. Maybe don't have the temperature in them quite yet, James, but they will come into temp and they will stick you to the road. John Wynn's Track Spec Motorsports on board, giving us a great perspective out the windshield.
Yeah, this is awesome. You love these camera angles when you have a battle for the lead. You feel right there. You know what the driver's dealing with. You know how close he is, how tantalizing it is to try to make that big send.
Well, that red car pulling away, but Thordarson trying to keep in touch with LaCourte. He doesn't need to win this race. He just needs to finish where he is, and he'll clinch that 2022 championship. It's been all about the consistency for Thordarson. Doesn't necessarily have the wins that the others have, but he certainly is in the mix in terms of podiums this season. 8, which is more than a lot of the rest of the drivers, and that's why he's on top of the standings right now. A little bit tentative through the corner, though. LaCourte firing off and not wasting any time building the gap.
Yeah, it's basically no different than what we saw Will Power do bringing home the championship this season. Just absolutely podium the field to death. Like I said, those consistent guys, they're hard to beat because they're not going to beat themselves. And yeah, racking up the wins is nice, but like if you just focus on the wins, you're going to have bad days. And consistent guys like Oli, they just don't have bad days.
Yeah, 2 wins on the season, 10 podiums after the other day. Average finish of 3.1 is certainly solid. And while that yellow car gets smaller in the windshield, one car that is not getting a whole lot smaller in the mirror is the red car in behind him, which I do believe is Nestor in that third place right now, as John Wynn continues to chase him as they work their way through the second lap at the moment. These are pretty short races here, James, so you have not a lot of time to get the job done.
Yeah, you really got to balance your aggression. You want to be patient, especially since you can't really make contact in this series, but you can't be too patient. You only have a handful of laps to get it done. And so if you take too much time, you're not going to have enough time to make the move. And some of these moves, you need a few laps, you need a few corners to be able to set it up. Look for the weakness of the car ahead of you. So you got to be quick about it. You just, like I said, it's a balance.
John Wynn getting up on top of the curbs here and assaulting the curbing. Penske Racing shocks on these cars. See the dust flying around inside the car as he chases the car ahead of him, which is Greg Nestor that he is trying to run down, and he's got his mirrors full. You see him look out to driver's left here, James. Has a look up the inside, goes to the dive, and doesn't quite get there. Nestor turns in and keeps the spot for now.
Great defense. Oh, he was going for it, though. You love to see the sends.
Took a look at it, but decided he couldn't get into the corner at that pace, but he's a little bit better than Nestor right now. Turns up underneath him. Can't get the overlap just yet, but continues to put pressure on Nestor. Has him looking in the mirror, James. One of my favorite moves is to pull out a line from the car in front, make him glance up in the mirror. Maybe he'll make a mistake and make your job a lot easier to get by.
Yeah, I've made many of moves not actually making a move, and it's great when you can pull that off because you just feel like you're pulling one over on the car ahead. You're just waving like, "Hi!" And you just look in the mirror and go, "Oh crap," and then they screw up. Greatest feeling, one of the greatest feeling.
Nestor certainly feeling the pressure from Wynn. Had a big slip up at turn number 3. And now as they navigate through the middle sector of the racetrack, Wynn continues to hound that 8 of Nestor. Nestor is out of San Luis Obispo, California, with the Greg Nestor Holmes team, second in the points coming into the weekend with a handful of podiums on the year. But he's seeing a potential podium disappear here if Wynn can find a way around him.
Yeah, honestly, at this rate, I'd say he's looking more. Oh, there was another send.
Another look up the inside of Nestor, and Wynn didn't have the overlap he needed, but you got to get fully alongside in the break before you get to the braking zone to really be there. Otherwise, you can end up in the door of your competitor. Here's a look at Nestor's season: 4 podiums and 8 top 5s to go with the good season he has had. Wynn is working hard behind the wheel right now. You see him getting up on top of the curbs and putting those shocks to work.
Yeah, John is just absolutely wheeling this car. Greg is probably looking more out of his mirror than he is at the windshield. Oh, there we go. Oh, he throws a block.
Little bit of a defense there, move to the right for Nestor. These two finish side by side in the second race in a drag race to the finish line. Right now, though, Wynn needs a little bit more to get up alongside that red Corvette, currently third. LaCourte leads, Thordarson second, but then it's Nestor and Wynn locked in a head-to-head duel for fourth place right now for position.
Ooh, I think Greg messed up. I think he carried a little more speed than he wanted to. It was pretty well off the apex.
Back on the front straightaway here this time into turn number 1. Just a slight turn to the left, and then you're back to the right here. Wynn has been a lot better through turn 3. Watch Nestor. Will he overdrive the entry again? Turns in a little bit off the apex, but carries good speed. So does Wynn, though, behind. Gets up on the curb on exit.
Yeah, I think that water line really worked for Greg right there. Here, John having to keep tighter on the curbing, it just didn't give him that great of an angle off and just kind of pushed him off the track. Didn't lose too much time, but yeah, I think Greg has a way to go through there.
Behind Wynn, right now it's Patrick Howe and Tony Jimerson that continue to battle just in the mirror of Wynn, but Wynn's got no eyes glancing at the mirror right now. He's all out the windshield. You can see the car vibrate on exit when he gets to the curbs. He's just so focused right now and trying to beat Nestor, who continues to find his way around. And look at Wynn up the inside again, takes a look, but still no overlap. He needs a little bit more to get there.
Oh, you love it. Ooh, oh, he's got a good run.
Maybe a quarter car length between the two, offsets the car to the right. The next corner is a right-hander. Nestor drives in deep on the brakes. The Willwoods slowing the car down. And up over the crest here as they head to turn 13. Banked corner again. And Wynn's going to dive up the inside and try to use the banking door to door through turn 13. Great run on exit. And here he comes up the inside. This turn's a left-hander. He should have this complete. Big counter steer, though. Was Nestor able to hang on the outside and Wynn is mid-track. But I think he's got this one done as he hits another left-hand corner.
Man, what a move. That was full send, getting it sideways.
It all started with that run to 13. He was able to dive up in there, force Nestor to compromise his line, and then throttled up on exit. But a big counter steer correction at 17. If Nestor's right here, he might have another look. And there's the celebration on board John Wynn's car.
He deserved it. He was working hard for that podium.
And why was that? Because that was the final lap, as I think we have completed our first of 2 races, and it looks like that's the case here with 12 minutes complete in the session. Cars beginning to slow down, and Wynn got it done in what would have been the last 3 or 4 corners of the lap, James. So that's pretty impressive.
Oh, man, those are the best moves. When you get someone on the last lap of a walk-off battle for the position, for a podium, there's very few better feelings in racing. Like an entire race worth of pain and hard work comes to fruition getting that move. Just incredible racing, clean racing from the both of them. That was everything you want to see.
That was great stuff. Their winner is Mark LaCourte for that first race. Thordarson second, and Wynn slotted himself into third there at the very end. Puts the 8 car just out. Greg Nestor, 4th place, missed out on a podium, but they're going to get to re-rack and restack and go again. And James, for Thordarson, his only mission is to do what he just did again, because he will lock himself in as the 2022 Spec Corvette by Nankang Tires champion.
Yeah, Oli with his 15,000 podium of the season.
Racking him up. Adjusting the mirror here for John Wynn, because he's going to need it with Nestor going to come back by him. We're not going to re-rack them in any particular way. They're going to line up how they finished, and then it's all about the start. And James, you want to go back to Nestor and Wynn. It's all about how they get to turn 1, because if they are alongside, remember the first turn's a left-hander. The second turn, though, is a pretty significant right-hander. So if you're off on what you would think would be the not preferred line, you can probably come back and attack John Wynn and reignite this battle for 3rd place.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Go around the outside, you'd be able to carry more speed, but that shorter distance, especially with the cars not fully up to power, or it'd be interesting to see who would have the advantage there.
So we're on board with Thordarson right now as we await the instruction to roll back up towards the start-finish line. We have the red flag waving as the field rolls to a stop. And John Wynn is now right behind Thordarson. We've seen John Wynn be extremely successful in this series in weekends and seasons past, so maybe he's got something for these front two if he can get by Thordarson and then focus his attention on Mark LaCourte, who continues to be the dominant force here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway.
Yeah, like they did lose a decent amount of time with all that battling, so if John can keep Greg behind him, it'd be interesting to see if he can keep up with LaCourte and Oli.
So awaiting their final race of the season for Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Tires. Thanks for being with us here on a gorgeous Sunday here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, a 2.68-mile road course here in Desert Center, California. We talked about this yesterday when we were racing late in the day. The sun beating down wasn't or isn't a big deal right now, but it was late in the day yesterday. It was blinding drivers on their run out to the west side of the circuit. But today the sun's a little bit higher here as we're racing kind of late morning here, so that's going to help out. You're not going to have that visual impairment heading off into some of these corners.
Yeah, someone who grew up in the California sun myself, I know how not easy it is to race with all that head up in your face.
Cars rolling again towards the start-finish line. Quickly, your rundown from the last session. Mark LaCourte, your winner. It was Oli Thordarson in second, then John Wynn, Daniel Sepulveda, Tony Jimerson, rounding out your top five in the Spec Corvette category as we now roll through the banked corner and get set for our second start and our final one of the day. LaCourte, Thordarson, Wynn, and it'll be Greg Nestor, who didn't actually pop up on the timing and scoring there. So Nestor was behind Wynn and ahead of Sepulveda there in position. Cars rolling now, and now all the temperatures in the tires they've warmed up and maybe overheated. Now they've had a time to cool back down, James. You're going to have optimal grip at this stage. You've been on the road. Your engine's up to temp. Your tires and brakes are up to temp. Now you go again. Got those butterflies, those pre-race butterflies. How do you navigate those emotions as you get set for the second start?
Well, now you're going through a second race. You're already pretty well in the zone. You've got the pre-race butterflies mostly out. You have an idea on what the car is going to do. You don't have to worry about getting everything up to temp. You know, you're in pretty much proper operating temperature where you're feeling a little better. You're feeling like you can take a little bit more of a risk, especially with this being your last opportunity of the season to make something happen.
Here we go. Green flag, and we're racing again in the Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Tires. Run down to turn one. Thordarson's alongside LaCourte, and he's going to get him. Thordarson past LaCourte. Big slide. Grabs a bunch of wheel through turn two. But LaCourte drops the second on the initial start.
And John's right there, right behind him. If anything happens, he's there to pick up the pieces.
We know LaCourte's got a little bit more pace than Thordarson. He's had it all weekend. They follow each other nose to tail here into turn four. Then it's turn five, another left-hander. Thordarson a little offline. LaCourte throttles up, gets through the gears to try to get by that 22 car out front.
Yeah, but Oli's so consistent. And LaCourte's going to need an absolute incredible drive to try to see if he can slip by him again.
Great exit out of the corner for LaCourte. He's going to carry this run down the straightaway. Thordarson goes and throws a block on him to the right, and LaCourte has to dive out to the left in the brakes, and this is going to bring John Wynn right into the mix. I think Thordarson's going to be the cork in the bottle, and the pressure is building.
John's loving this. This is exactly what he wants to see.
You'd like to see them cross each other up and allow him to slip on by. Thordarson is battling for a championship. LaCourte battling for another win. Those two, despite their fighting, are beginning to put some distance on the number 15 with the Track Spec Motorsports on board. Big John Wynn, he gathers it up in a wild sliding moment as the front two leaders begin to pull away.
Oh, big wiggles and understatement right there. What a save, and still kept it on the track, mostly. Which I don't think John thought he was going to be able to do that when she kicked out.
Big grab of the wheel and closes back in on LaCourte and Thordarson now as they head up towards the next corner. Thordarson continues to lead, but here comes LaCourte up the inside, and maybe that was almost touched there as Thordarson turned in late to try to build speed on the exit. Lap one complete, and Thordarson leads the way here in the Spec Corvette by Nankang Tires finale.
Oh, there's closing the door, and there's absolutely slamming it in your face, and that's what Oli did. Woo, that was risky.
Still, oh, look at LaCourte, a big bobble in behind, some understeer for John Wynn as he tries to chase these two down. LaCourte is all over Thordarson. On the brakes a little earlier, though, that 22 is absolutely hucking it into the corners and leaning on those Willowwood brakes to slow down that white and red Corvette out front.
I just love how John nearly put it in the tumbleweeds, and he's still right there, in striking distance of the lead.
Can't let it distract you. You got to stay focused forward. And as these two fight, he knows this is his best opportunity to grab a little higher than third place. Thordarson drops a tire on the exit, and here comes the 73 to the inside. The yellow Corvette now, or on the outside rather, of the entrance to the corner. Is he going to try to cross over the 22? Not this time. Back to the left in a battle for the lead.
Yeah, Oli is driving like he's got nothing to lose.
Well, he does. At this stage, he's got the championship to lose, but he's leading by so much he can take this risk. LaCourte still trying to find a way around him. He has not lost a race yet this weekend, and he would like to do that, or not like to do that this time. Up the inside here, the 22 runs wide on entry. Does it open the door for the 73? They're door to door in a battle for the top spot here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. And here comes the 73 up the outside, and he might have him here. LaCourte around the outside here. Thordarson trying to tug it in tight, but he loses the lead, and LaCourte around the outside makes that move, and the slippery yellow Corvette goes to the lead with a slide. Here comes Thordarson back to the outside. Off the start finish line this time. Mark LaCourte finally gets by Thordarson. All that slipping and sliding brings Wynn right back into the mix. But where can Wynn go as Thordarson continues to try to run down LaCourte? But did he overheat his rear tires, slipping and sliding around, trying to keep that 73 car behind him?
Yeah, LaCourte's starting to pull away.
Wynn, right now, you're on board with him on the left-hand side of the screen, chasing Oli Thordarson, who's on the right-hand side of your screen. He is chasing LaCourte. So it's LaCourte, Thordarson, and Wynn all locked together in a battle from first through third. The podium fight is on. LaCourte runs out real wide. Thordarson keeps it tight through there, James. I think he's trying to run the short way around, but he's giving up straightaway speed on exit with that tight line.
Yeah, but LaCourte, he went a little too wide, and that cost him a huge amount of time. Even with Oli's tighter line, and he carried way more speed off the corner and cut the lead in half. LaCourte was starting to pull away, but now Oli is right back within striking distance. He can read the license plate on that vet.
All on board with Thordarson right now, chasing the yellow car out in front. That is Mark LaCourte, who won race 1 today and race 2 yesterday, and continues to try to pull away. Thordarson got the lead on the initial start, but wasn't able to hang on to it for more than a couple of laps. Through the banked corner now as they roll through 13, and LaCourte, look at the throttle on exit. LaCourte just sprints away and adds maybe 2 to maybe 3 car lengths there in that corner alone.
Yeah, he's just really good at maximizing the momentum off the corner. And with a lot of tight corners leading on to some pretty decently length straightaway, he's the ability to do that. It just like look at that. You can see the fruits of the effort, and he's really starting to leave Oli in the dust.
Alvaca Networks on board. Thordarson out of Danville, California, grabs a whole bunch of wheel to keep the car pointed in the right direction across the start-finish line, and the white flag is waving. That means one more time around here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. LaCourte through turn 2 is leading the way again. Thordarson and Wynn second and third, and Thordarson's trying to eat back into that lead here, but he's going to need some luck and maybe a mistake from the leader.
I swear, I think John almost put it in the tumbleweeds again.
Last race of the season, put it all on the line. Wynn trying to get more than the third, but seeing the 22 car slip away. A championship potentially on the table for Thordarson if he continues where he's at. LaCourte has done well all weekend long. No championship for him, but a table full of trophies if he can finish this one off here in the next half lap. Man, absolute animal behind the wheel, John Wynn. Jumping the curb and getting after it here. And Thordarson closing the gap here on LaCourte. but I just don't think, without a mistake from the leader, that he's going to get by. He's been matching his pace this time through, which he couldn't do yesterday, so Thordarson has figured something out.
Yeah, it's a shame with how much he's starting to get back to the lead. If we just had a couple more laps, this would get interesting again, but I don't think he's going to get there in time, not with like half the track left.
Through the banking now, and heading down to the last half of a lap here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Motorsport Tires. Started on the West Coast. It has infiltrated other regions like the NOLA region. Dozens of cars across the country being built for this series, all in an attempt to bring the C5 platform to an affordable racing series where you can race door to door with like-minded people and like-minded cars. For Mark LaCourte, it has been a picture-perfect weekend. He's going to come on through and pick up another checkered flag, but for Oli Thordarson, he's going to wrap up the championship today here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. Oli Thordarson, your 2022 Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Tires champion. John Wynn brings home a third. Not a bad event, James, for John. I think he would have liked one spot, maybe two spots better. They were battling ahead of him, but he needed him to tangle a little bit more.
Yeah, still a great run by him. He was wheeling it. He put her off. He kicked up a little bit of dust, but man, he was just on a mission. And some great driving from him.
Yeah, no sign of Nestor in that fight, so he was not able to battle with Wynn, at least not visibly like we saw in race number 1, where Nestor had the advantage for a little bit here. But cooling down now, and both the drivers and the cars before they bring him back into the paddock.
Yeah, well, they're going to get out of these cars exhausted from this one. Like, everyone just giving their all.
Exhausted and hot, and ready to park it and celebrate a season of racing here on the West Coast. Think back to the season standings this year and the way they came in. We've raced at Buttonwillow. We've been at Chuckwalla once. We've been at Willow Springs, Thunder Hill, Auto Club, Ozarks, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, Sonoma, and now back to Chuckwalla. That's what the season has looked like. And for the driver behind the wheel of the 22, only 2 races did he not start. Didn't make Thunder Hill, but his finishes all inside the top 5 with the exception of Sonoma Race 1. All the other events have been 5th or better, and all of those except another one have been 4th or better, James, and that's how you win yourself a championship.
Consistency is king. When you're that consistent and you make so few mistakes, it puts everyone on edge because you feel like you have to be perfect yourself, and you feel like you have to win every race, and you start making mistakes from having to push so hard. And so it just kind of everything comes back to Oli because he's naturally consistent. He's not pushing it, and when everyone else makes these mistakes, has their issues, he's there still second, third, or just race after race. And I've said it a million times, it's hard to beat someone that races like that.
Well, cars are pulling into the paddock for the final time this season and just waiting on results. We'll bring them to you when we have them, and then we'll debrief briefly before we head out for the day and for the season, James. This was a fun one, race 2 especially, with Thordarson getting the lead here early. It all came down to that standing start, the run up the hill towards turn number 1. That was thrilling to watch.
Oh, it was incredible. Well, seeing him doing everything he can to keep LaCourte behind him, but LaCourte just had the pace today. Hey, when you're that fast, you know, you can only do so much to keep them behind. And he just got that one little slip by Oli, and that's all he needed.
Race results, Mark LaCourte, Oli Thordarson, John Wynn. Then behind it was Nestor Sepulveda. And that wrapped up your Spec Corvette runners here in this one. That's going to do it for not only this race, but the season. Oli Thordarson is your 2022 Spec Corvette by Nankang Tires champion. James, final thoughts here as we leave Chuckwalla and we leave the series until next time.
It's just a fun series, a fun season. and we saw a lot of great racing, great battles, and it's great to see more grassroots efforts like this come up. You know, we all love racing, we all want to be in a car, so having affordable series like this that still puts on great racing, it's a good sign for all of us.
If you'd like to follow Spec Corvette, you can find them on Facebook or on Instagram. Thanks to all the partners and people that make this happen. To James Watson, Chris Graham behind the production here today, and myself, Kyle Heyer. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time here for Spec Corvette presented by Nanking Motorsport Tires. We'll see you next year.